Hold on a minute, my DA is still up. Hold on 2 ticks. All right. I shouldn't have pressed record just yet. No, have I pressed it yet? No, I have. Yeah. No. Okay, hold on. That is it. Good. Okay, so there we go. So just going to say welcome to everybody tonight's wonderful Monday night training nation call. And I'm your host, so National Vice President Fiona McCarthy. And I would just like to first do an introduction to some incredible people who have joined our team recently. So a very warm welcome to Deborah Shuttleworth, sponsored by Kelly Bromley, Ashley Clennell, sponsored by Marie Gills, Rachel Single, sponsored by Frankie Haas, Denise Moore, sponsored by Michelle Duke, Katrin Lewis, sponsored by Sophie Rees, Rebecca Deeming, sponsored by Karen Gardner, Erin Kay, sponsored by Emma Porce, Pippa Smith, sponsored by Michelle Duke, Katie Cuddington, sponsored by Caroline Stalker, Jennifer Walters, sponsored by Alison Hutchinson, Kath Hawthorne, sponsored by Jade Brimfield, Kerry Tonkinson, sponsored by Lisa Hennig, Lucy Chapman, sponsored by Sally Chapman, Shannon White, sponsored by Joseph Ferry, Ricky Alton, sponsored by Nicola Case, Tamsin Elizabeth, sponsored by Stacey Blackley, Julie Eames, sponsored by Lizzie Hinnick, I hope I got that right, Sarah Godden, sponsored by Antonia Russell, Heather Greenaway, sponsored by Stacey Blackley, Sonia Maguire, sponsored by Kirsty Mintoft, Ashley Defo, sponsored by Donna Wrighton, Sarah Murphy, sponsored by Sarah Kenny, Caroline Ginner, sponsored by Donna Wrighton, Leslie Dewar, sponsored by Jade Brimfield, Lynn Munden, sponsored by Myers Rock, Ram Paul, sponsored by Claire Slaney, Paige Gordon, sponsored by Alison Hutchinson, Dave Shears, sponsored by Frankie Hirth, Chris Mars, sponsored by Rebecca Stokes, Rachel Partridge, sponsored by Daniela Wells, Andy Morgan, sponsored by Emma Wood, Jacqueline Knox, sponsored by Fiona McCarthy. We're almost there, guys. Hold on. Everybody, round of applause so far. Amazing. Kirsty Mintoff, sponsored by Karen Gardner, Vicky Hopkins, sponsored by Sarah Kenny, Natalie Robbins, sponsored by Sophie Rees. And by the way, Julie, can you guys all see this?
No.
Oh, God, you're joking. So I'm going through the whole list and nobody can see the names. Really?
No, we can't see nothing. Just you, Fiona.
Oh, God. So you just got me leaning down. Okay, hold on a minute. I'll go back to that slideshow in a minute. 2 ticks, guys. Let me just get that down. Aw. So, how boring. Sorry, everybody.
We love seeing your face, Fiona.
Oh, you're so sweet, Stacey. Gotcha. I'm in. Right, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right, good. Let me go back up then. Okay, so I was on the slide. If I put the whole screen, can you see the screen with me, yeah?
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, so I think I got to... Did I start?
No. The ground is eating us.
Where did I get to? Kirsty Mintoff?
Yeah.
Yeah, sponsored by Karen Gardner. Vicky Hopkins, sponsored by Sarah Kenny. Natalie Robbins, sponsored by Sophie Rees. Ellis Merritt, sponsored by Danielle Wells. Rob Room, sponsored by Angela Taylor. Sue Gilbert, sponsored by Andrea Phillips. Cassia Wilson, sponsored by Kelly Bromley. Claire Driver, sponsored by Stacey Blackley. Adam Wilson, sponsored by Emma Wilson. Barbara Kelly, sponsored by Claire Slaney. Jodie Pilcher, sponsored by Lizzie Heinrich. Jason Message, sponsored by Kelly Atkinson. Dean Robertson, sponsored by Kerry Robinson. Karen Fletcher, sponsored by Caroline Stalker. Judith Creasy, sponsored by Rebecca Moore. And Laura Knowles, sponsored by Danny Wells. Woo, that's incredible, guys. That's your first week in October. That just shows the no sign-up fee is really, everybody's taking full advantage of it, which is great. Okay, so quick housekeeping. So we have the 9th of October tomorrow night. We've got our success story, CJ and Emma on that, hosting 8 p.m. Then the following night, we've got Discover Arbonne, again hosted at 8 p.m. always the same time on the Hello Future page by our gorgeous RVP Jade Brimfield. The lovely Stacey is doing the health and wellness on our health and wellness work Facebook page, and that again is 8 p.m. followed by, on Friday, an online party hosted by Joel Woolley, as well on the Facebook Live. So there's loads going on, so invite as many people. There's all the stuff to help you guys build your teams. So we have Nation Training and Recognition, and it's here in the William Cecil, and that's happening the very first Monday of every month, and it happens to be Monday the 5th, loads of fireworks, and that's 7:30 p.m. as well. And you can see, lovely to have the beautiful new Regional Vice President, Jennifer Cowie, on that picture, joining the rest of the VPs. So well done, Jennifer Cowie, exciting to have you in the VP team. Okay, so we've got a nutrition workshop, 7 p.m. This is in Nottingham and the Embankment on the 11th. Then in Discover Arbonne, followed by Discover Arbonne, the same evening as well, by two amazing RVPs, Siobhan Greenhill and Hayley Clugston. And we have our own team running an amazing, another Healthy and Happy Hour on Thursday, the 18th of October at the Belmont Hotel in Leicester. And followed by a big Birmingham Discover Arbonne on Wednesday, the 10th of October, where our own incredible Nikki Marchant is helping to present. So there's a lot of big names there for people to get guests to. It's going to be incredible. And now I'd like to welcome our incredible Dr. Julie Fisher-Smith for training. So I'm just going to stop this here a minute. Okay, great. So I'm just going to give a bio about Julie. I've known Julie, oh my gosh, Julie, how long have we known each other for now?
Oh, I don't know. 6 months?
6
Been that
months.
long?
Yes, I know, it probably has been.
It has, yeah.
And I just love Julie. She's so warm and charismatic, and her 3 girls are the most liveliest, bubbliest girls. And if that's nutrition, I would help them on this nutrition to go off Julie, then it certainly is working, because their energy is like phenomenal. So I'm just going to introduce you guys to Julie. Julie did our 8 p.m. Zoom call for our region last Monday, and she blew me away. And I just had to share her with the rest of the nation. You guys, make sure you have pen and paper ready, because you will be taking copious notes tonight. You will absolutely love Julie's training, and you'll want to listen to it again and again. So Julie graduated from medical school in 2004 after 8 years and 2 degrees. She's worked in women's health for 13 years and witnesses at first hand the growing obesity epidemic affecting women from infertility to cancer and increasing complications in pregnancy. So Julie knows her stuff, guys. Julie resigned from her career when she could no longer juggle being a single mom to 3 young children and working shifts in a stressful environment. So Julie says that she loves all the Arbonne products, but for her, nutrition underpins everything. If we can improve someone's health, says Julie, we can change their life. And that is where my passion for our nutrition comes from. As a family, we use it every day, and they do. And I hope to share my reasons why your clients and the families can benefit too. So I'm going to hand over to you, gorgeous Dr. Julie Fisher-Smith. I can't wait for your training. Take it away, my lovely.
Oh, thank you for the lovely introduction. And I'm delighted to have been invited. Really exciting. So I'm going to try and keep it simple. I know that there's so much information there on the source about our 30 days healthy living, which is amazing. And rather than go through that, I want to give it a different slant, really. And so I want to go through 4 different things with you. The first is I want to give you my key areas as takeaways from our 30 days. I also want to touch on 2 disorders which result from chronic inflammation, and that will make sense a bit later on. The key is autoimmune disease, but increasingly we're noticing that there is a link between nutrition and cancer. And so I think that needs special mention. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is, as Fiona's obviously just alluded to with the introduction, is pregnancy. And although our nutrition is amazing, we need to be careful with pregnancy, and I'll explain to you later why. And then finally, our company promotes healthy eating, and it also promotes us using organic fruit and vegetables. And I want to touch on the reason why we're not an organic company, and why that is okay. So, as Fiona said, I've got a passion for women's health. And the reason why I'm so passionate about women's health is obviously we provide the next generation. So if we can get women healthy, we don't just affect their lives, we affect future generations. And how powerful is that? So we've really got to optimize health. So As I said, I'm going to give you my key takeaways about our nutrition. The 4 areas that I want to touch on. Now, obviously, the ideal is that everyone is going to use the ASVP, but we need to be realistic here, and everyone cannot do that as a whole family. So my key products within the 30-day range are the protein or the meal replacement shake, Digestion Plus, our omega-3, and obviously our most recent new products, which is the cleanse. And I'll touch on the reasons why. So if you think about our 30-day plan, it's a reset plan. Now, we live in a really toxic environment. There's toxins everywhere in our water supply, in our diet. We're increasingly having processed food. Literally everywhere we go there are toxins. And the idea with the 30-day plan is to stop it. So if you imagine we've got a constant tap of all these toxins coming in from all the food sources that we use. If we can then, the first thing we do is stop. So we stop our current eating habits and effectively turn the tap off. The way that we do that is obviously by using our protein. So we're replacing that toxic food-like substance that we are eating and replace it with our protein or our meal replacement, which it has all the nutrition that we need and is free from toxins and all the other nasties that we take in. Then what we now stop those toxins, then we then need to support our body to eliminate the toxins that we've already accumulated. Now, just to give you an idea, we use fat protectively. So if somebody's carrying extra weight, then by definition, their bodies are toxic, because what happens is that all the toxins go into the fat to keep it away from our vital organs. So it's actually a protective mechanism. Now, just to give you a quick comparison about lots of other plans that are out there and compare that to Arbonne, most of the plans are all about reducing your calorie intake so that you lose weight just through fact of numbers. The difference with Arbonne's 30 days is that it's actually cellular cleansing. And so we're actually at the cellular level, which is obviously the smallest level that you can get to, getting rid of all those toxins. Once all those toxins have gone away and that you are then eating proper food, then by definition, the fat will follow, because there's no reason for the fat to stay because there's no toxins. The difference is that in other plans, you literally are dropping your calories. Eventually, you will reduce your body weight, but all that it will do is make that those toxins more concentrated. So you probably have less fat, less body mass, but you won't lose the toxins. In fact, the toxins will actually be more concentrated, and that's why other plans are so bad for us. So what is so great about the protein and meal replacement? Well, the first thing is that we have the choice, which I think is really powerful. So for the average person trying to get into shape, have a healthy diet, and especially people that have got a lot of weight to lose, I think the default should be the meal replacement. It literally is a grab and go. Everything's in there. There's obviously another group of people which, like myself, might use the protein, but will add to it. And it's there as a base. So, throw in a bit of avocado, some chia seeds, some greens, whatever you want to bulk it out. But it's not enough as a shake and go. And the reason why, I think this is something everyone should take note of really, is there's something called your basal metabolic rate. There's loads of different calculators on Google. You can easily calculate your own. It's based on your weight, your height, your age, and your level of activity. It's basal metabolic rate. I'll put a note in at the end, Jade. But it's basically the minimum amount of calories that you need to survive. This is before you've even got out of bed. So it's all our basic functions, to keep our brain working, to keep breathing, to keep our heart beating. Just to give you an idea, mine's 1500, which is pretty average. So I need 1500 calories in my diet every single day before I've done anything. With other diet plans or other eating plans, which people tend to make a direct comparison with Arbonne, as soon as you mention shake, they kind of go, oh, I've tried X, Y, and Z. The difference is that they work by dropping people below their basal metabolic rate. the idea of it is, of course, you're going to lose weight. But the way that they lose weight is by literally going into starvation mode, which means that they will lose weight, but they will not lose fat, because body digests its own protein, which is our muscle, more readily than it uses fat when you're in starvation mode. So in actual fact, to lose weight healthily, it's obviously the R1 way, reduce toxins and then reduce your fat that way, rather than actually eating its own muscle. So that's another reason why personally I would opt for the meal replacement, because it's got that slightly higher amount of calories, and so you're less likely to drop people that low. The other thing that I want to mention when it comes to shakes, because although the shakes are absolutely amazing, having everything that we need, a key part of digestion is chewing. There's lots of different signals that happen in our body in order to digest our foods, to produce all the enzymes that we need, but we need to chew. So obviously you're not going to go and chew a shake unless you make it into a smoothie bowl or something. So you must yourselves and encourage your clients to eat something with it. Now I'm not suggesting that you go and eat something big in addition, but a few nuts or a small green apple, just something to kickstart the process of digestion, so that you can get the most out of the shake itself. So that's the protein. The second that I touched on then is obviously the cleanse. So we've stopped the tap, we've replaced the toxins that we've been having in our environment with our protein. The next thing is to get rid of everything that we've accumulated, and the cleanse is absolutely incredible. It's a really gentle way of supporting our normal elimination processes. So we've got our liver, we've got 2 kidneys, most people have, and we've also got our skin, and they are the 3 elimination organs, and they do an incredible job. The problem is, because we live in such a toxic environment now, they're completely overwhelmed with all these toxins, and so they do need some support. And if you imagine, think about your diet. If you've been having an awful diet for 10 years or so, can you imagine what's accumulating in your gut that your body can't get rid of? It's just like this toxic sludge that is just constantly feeding all this rubbish, because you just can't clear it all, because your body's like, I'm doing the best I can, but I can't do any more for you. So by adding in that cleanse, it's gentle, it doesn't cause any awful stimulation with your bowel or anything, but it just kickstarts your body's normal function, helps that cleansing process, and is the perfect start to the body cleanse. And personally, I would recommend that everybody uses it once a month, if they're not able to use it every day. So that's the cleanse. The third part that I don't want to miss out, and I know I think I ended up forgetting previously, is water. Water is the best thing that we can do to cleanse our body, and we don't drink enough of it. Now, guidelines are that we should drink 8 glasses of water a day. That's an absolute minimum. I think that we should all be drinking a considerably larger amount than that. Again, there's a calculator that I'll post later on, and it's just a calculator which just literally put a few numbers in terms of your activity, the climate that you live in, and it gives you an idea. Personally, for me, I drink a minimum of 3 litres, if not 4, and once I add exercise into it, I'm often up to 5 litres, whereas the recommended allowance would really be 2 litres, and that is not enough. It's not enough. The other thing as well is that often the signal of hunger versus thirst can actually get quite confused. So often you're really thirsty and you feel like you're hungry, and that goes back to how people say, if you feel hungry, have a glass of water, and that can help you work out if you are hungry or not. So I can't stress that enough for everybody, and particularly for children. So that, my children, they will eat until the cows come home, but I need to constantly put water in front of them to keep them hydrated, because they always say they're hungry, and I know they're not. They're thirsty. So we've got the protein or the meal replacement, then we've got the cleanse and the water. Now, the other 2 really important areas of the 30 days, which I think everybody needs, are Digestion Plus and Omega-3. Now, let's start with Digestion Plus. Now, I could talk about this all day, so I'm going to watch your face, and if I start talking too much, Fiona, I will stop. So, everybody needs Digestion Plus, okay? Everybody, including children, and more importantly children, because the children of today are being exposed to more toxins in their short lives than we probably have in our entire lifetime. Certainly for my children, I give them half a Digestion Plus a day. If they've had a particularly toxic time, such as birthday party week last week, then they've had a full one this week, because I know there is a lot of damage to undo. So I keep saying Digestion Plus. Notice I'm not saying probiotics, I'm saying Digestion Plus, and there's a reason for that. And that is because our Digestion Plus is not comparable to anything else on the market. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, to understand how important it is, I need to tell you about our gut. So our gut itself is made up of many organs all working together to take in food, get the nutrition out of it, and eliminate waste. Sounds quite simple, except it's not, because our gut isn't just made up of all the organs that are part of us. It's made up of our microbiome. Now, for me, the first time I read it, quite a disturbing figure is that we're actually only 10% human. So we're seriously outnumbered by bacteria. Now, we have something called a symbiotic relationship with bacteria. So we provide shelter and we provide the food, and the bacteria provide us with a service, if you like. So they're involved in digestion. They do lots of the digestion to get nutrition out of our food. And they also are involved with things like hormone production. You might have heard of serotonin, which is our happy hormone, which you imagine is produced in your brain, but it's not. It's produced in the gut, and bacteria have a key role in the synthesis of it. And also, bacteria have got a really important role in the protective effect of our gut lining. And you'll see a bit later on why that is so important. So we've got all these bacteria, which are really, really important. And then what do? We try and kill them off. So if we get ill, you get antibiotics. And I am absolutely for antibiotics. But antibiotics are like Domestos, and they just strip everything. So they need to be replaced. Otherwise, what happens is you end up with a mismatch from the amount of bacteria that we call good bacteria against an overgrowth of bad bacteria. So there's then an imbalance, and the good bacteria then can't do their job. But it's not just antibiotics that we take when our doctor prescribes it. It's all the antibiotics within our environment. So you know all the adverts, go and get a surface clean that kills 99.9% bacteria. Go and wash your hands with something that's going to kill 99.9% bacteria. It doesn't really sound alarming until I go back to that point before, that we are 10% human. We're 90% bacteria. And so we're actually killing off ourselves. We're killing off this good stuff that is keeping us healthy. And it is really important to replace it. Add to that, the food industry is completely overwhelmed with antibiotics. So if you think of within, say, the dairy industry, mastitis is rife, and so cows are just given prophylactic antibiotics constantly. Even in fisheries, there's antibiotics that are given just to try and prevent disease, because of course within the animal industry it's all about increasing yield and increasing profits, and so antibiotics just go into our food chain. The difficulty with that is, of course, we're at the top of the food chain, and so they've got all these antibiotics in the water, in the fish, in animals, and then we then eat it, and we've got that accumulation effect. So we've killed off all the antibiotics, and then we've got this mismatch, and so we need to replace it. We need to replace it daily, because daily, of course, we eliminate whatever's in our bowel, and so we need to be replacing it. And that is also to counteract the new exposure to antibiotics that we have every single day. So In order to get probiotics, obviously, we need to get in a stable form. Now, let me tell you why this is important. Lots of people go and get probiotics off the shelf, or even worse, out of a fridge. Out of a fridge where it's combined with sugar and where it's combined with dairy, which are two of the most pro-inflammatory foods that obviously in our elimination diet, we advise that you get rid of them, and there's good reason for that. So you've already got a cocktail that obviously isn't stable, because if it can't survive on a shelf, it has to be in a fridge and it's not stable. And it's also mixed in with dairy and with sugar, which, you know, is going to cause further damage. If you imagine our stomach is like a reservoir of acids, I think the best way of thinking about it is think about a toddler, you know, or even before a toddler, a baby, they're crawling and everything is going in their mouth. It's a survival mechanism. Everything that goes in their mouth has to pass through the stomach, and the stomach literally destroys so many things to make sure that it doesn't damage us. So if you've got a probiotic that has to be refrigerated, it's not going to survive our body temperature, which is considerably higher than that of the fridge, but also it's going to get destroyed by the acid in our stomach, because that is what it's there for. It's a protective mechanism. So we need something that's better than that. We need something that's completely stable, that's going to survive the acid and is going to survive the temperature, because we want it to be active beyond the stomach. It needs to be active within the bowel itself. That is where the probiotics work. So I wanted to tell you about an experiment which I think is really useful in getting things into perspective. Now, obviously, as a company, we do not test on animals, but obviously within medicine, that is how everything is tested. So a study was done fairly recently in rats, and they got a selection of rats and they observed their behaviour, and they also monitored their weight, just having whatever an average rat diet is. They then gave half the rats an antibiotic and then continued to watch the behaviour. In a very short space of time, the rats who'd had the antibiotics became obese. And that was because their behaviour had changed. It basically started developing, I suppose, what we describe as depressed symptoms. They become more sedentary, they were eating more, and they were just not displaying the normal ability of a rat, and they became obese. What was most interesting about the study is that when they introduced a probiotic into that rat's diet, both the effects of both the weight increase and the change in its behaviour were reversed. So it was obviously the absence of the key bacteria within the bowel which was having an impact on its behaviour and also its weight. Then what I found really interesting is they went even deeper, and they started exposing the rat to particular strains of bacteria to say, once that bacteria has been stripped, what is the best type of bacteria of actually repopulating the rat's gut to restore the normal weight and the normal behaviour. And it was something called Bacillus coagulans. Now, Bacillus coagulans is really interesting because it's one of the most stable bacteria, because it survives in a spore form. Now, bacteria in spore form will literally survive a nuclear fallout. It will certainly survive the acid within your stomach. And it survives on the shelf, so it gets through to your stomach and beyond, where it then becomes active. Now, here's what I found really exciting, and this is why I'm so passionate about this product, is because our Digestion Plus is made up of Bacillus coagulans, and that is why we have it in a sachet. That is why we can take it anywhere, just have it in your handbag, and that is why at the point of manufacture, you get the same amount of active bacteria that was there when it was formed to when you put it in your mouth, because it is completely stable. As far as I'm aware, there is nothing else on the market like it. Not in that type of bacteria, and obviously in a spore form. Now, one thing I started getting hung up about was the amount of million bacteria per culture and all the rest of it. And of course, from a marketing point of view, there's lots of companies will just like, you know, we've got X million or what have you, and someone else like, we've got 10 million more, so our product is better. Ignore it. It doesn't matter. they're making these big claims because you've got your refrigerated little dairy sugar cocktail, and of course there's going to be a massive degradation in the amount of active bacteria from its production to its use. That doesn't apply to us. So what is produced is exactly what you get. So don't get hung up on numbers. You will not get anything else that compares to Digestion Plus. So that is key. Everybody needs Digestion Plus. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on was omega-3. Now, of course, traditionally people use omega-3 from fish, oily fish, mackerel, salmon, and all the rest of it, which is amazing. And I'm sure in time gone by, that has been an amazing source of omega-3. And omega-3 has got countless benefits. But the two that I think are really important is it's in brain health. So it's particularly important in children because they've obviously got the highest brain development. And it's also key in weight loss. So if you're deficient in omega-3, you'll also struggle with weight management. So the difficulty we have now, as I've touched on already, is our waters are polluted. And so the fish that we're getting omega-3 from, obviously it's a concentrated oil form in capsule or what have you, basically getting concentrated toxins because the fish aren't healthy to start with. And they've been exposed to all sorts, which then we're getting in a concentrated form. So although I certainly think omega-3 is beneficial for our Arbonne's omega-3 is beneficial for vegans, I personally would recommend ours over your traditional fish oil because it's not a contaminated product, whereas we can no longer say that fish oil is a clean product. Gone are the days when you were having, freshly caught salmon out of the sea. It's not, it's all farmed and it's infected and it's horrible. But anyway, let's talk about omega-3 in terms of what it contains for people following a vegan diet. So there's two forms of omega-3, there's two parts of it. There's ALA and there's DHA. Now, ALA is really easy. You can get it in flax seeds and chia seeds. So most vegans will have sufficient ALA. But it's not enough to have that. You also need DHA. And DHA is much more difficult to come by. No surprises, though, that Arbonne has got exactly the correct proportions of ALA and DHA. And our DHA is actually from seaweed. So again, if you're speaking to somebody who has a vegan diet, or as I said before, somebody who feels that they benefit from having a plant-based omega-3 source over a fish source, then there's absolute complete reassurance that it is a complete omega-3. And again, I've not come across anything else that even comes close to that. So that's sort of in a nutshell what I think is really important about our 30 days. And I'll move on to, I suppose, to disease processes. And this is where you start really getting a feel for how important diet is. Now, about 2,000 years ago, there was this bloke called Hippocrates. And he's actually been spoken of as the father of medicine. And he made this massive statement that all disease starts in the gut. And only sort of 2,000 plus years on, we're now starting to realise that he was right, but we're only starting to even break the surface of why he was right. And what I want to just touch on, because I've been asked quite a few times about, and I don't want to get into specifics, but as a sort of general idea, because obviously people want to help people who've got problems with autoimmune disease and whatnot. Basically, autoimmune disease does come from the gut, we are starting to see. Although it's quite anecdotal at the moment. There's mounting evidence, but if you imagine, to get evidence takes a long time. And this is just starting to come through now. But you know how I said before about your bacteria have got many functions in your gut, but particularly protective of your gut lining. Now, the gut lining is so highly regulated, and we're talking on the cellular level here. So if you imagine, in order to get the nutrients out the gut, you've got these tiny little passages in between cells. They're actually called gate junctions. And there's actually like specific electrochemical gradient in which the nutrients get across. So they are very tightly regulated because you want to get the good stuff in and not let the toxins come in. Over time, if you get chronic inflammation, and also with your imbalance of your bad bacteria versus your good bacteria, then this really delicate line of the gut can be damaged. And what can happen is you can slowly get toxins getting into your body. And in essence, it causes an inflammatory response, which then actually triggers your immune system. Now, our immune system is tightly regulated. So why on earth are we getting autoimmune disease, which in effect is the body attacking itself? Now, just to give you an idea of how amazing our immune system is, if you think about pregnancy, so pregnancy is a really unusual time in the body because you've actually got something growing inside mum that is non-self, and the body recognises cells either self or non-self. And if it's non-self, it attacks it. So, you know, say if you get a bee sting, that's non-self, and so I think we all know how painful and swollen the area of the sting becomes because it's non-self. And so to prevent the body attacking baby, it actually dampens down the immune system, but enough that the immune system can still see its job, still do its job. So that just gives you an idea of how tightly regulated. So why on earth would something so highly regulated, so specific, actually attack itself? And it is through this chronic inflammation. Now, the main inflammation mediators in the diet are gluten, sugar, and dairy. And that is why, as part of our 30 days, we cut out those things. And another biggie is stress, but that is another story. So you've got chronic inflammation, and then the body ends up attacking itself. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that you can say that 30 days will help people reverse the damage from autoimmune disease. However, people that have got autoimmune disease, myself included, have had chronic inflammation for whatever means. So if you can get them into a healthier place through their diet, through the 30 days, then in theory, you can basically cause damage limitation. Because once you've got one autoimmune disorder, you are much more likely to develop another one. And so if you can improve their diet now, then you will hopefully prevent further in the future. It is damage limitation. What else do I want to say on that? The other one I wanted to talk about really briefly, and this thing just come to me today because it's a bit of often things are slow, sort of quite slow coming through. But certainly in my practice in women's health, one thing that we were seeing was an increase in cancer. Now, obviously, cancer is a massive topic, but one thing that is slowly becoming more accepted is the part that diet plays in cancer. Now, you don't have a bad diet today and develop cancer tomorrow, but just like autoimmune disease, chronic inflammation actually is contributory in cancer development. And in fact, I've now recently read that second to only smoking, obesity is the leading preventable cause of cancer. Now that is a scary statement. And how amazing is it that with our 30 days helping people manage their lifestyle, reduce obesity, then in actual fact, they are modifying the second preventable cause of cancer. I mean, just let that sink in for a second, because it's massive, absolutely massive. The difference that we can be making to people's lives purely by helping them with diet. So the other thing, so we were doing the 30 days, autoimmune disease. Special mention is obviously pregnancy. So this is something that is really close to my heart, and I have seen pregnant women with the most horrendous, and I use inverted commas to say diets, because my goodness, what people eat. it fascinates me how the body can even live, let alone grow another human being. If somebody is eating McDonald's as their food stuff, then regardless of anything that I am going to say now, 30 days is going to be more healthy. But there's got to be a caveat to that, and that is pregnancy. Now, obviously pregnancy is really important in getting nutrient-dense food, but there's one part of our diet which we have to be really careful with, and that is something called vitamin A. Now, vitamin A, out of all the vitamins, is actually quite easy to obtain because it's in most things. It's in fish, eggs, meat, and any brightly coloured vegetables. It's important, but in pregnancy it can cause a problem because high levels of vitamin A can contribute to something called spina bifida, which is obviously a serious complication. And for that reason, if you look at any antenatal vitamins, none of them contain vitamin A because you don't want to get people into a toxic level of vitamin A for that reason. Now, all what I'm saying here is theoretical because they've seen an increase in spina bifida with high levels of vitamin A, but those vitamin A levels were a result of synthetic vitamin A, and of course ours are a botanical source. But regardless, the risk is too great. And just to get it into perspective, by having sort of 2 portions of our meal replacement shake would get you right onto the boundary of normal vitamin A. And if you imagine a woman already getting quite a bit of vitamin A from her diet, there's a theoretical chance that it could just tip her over that recommended level. So I know there's the disclaimer on everything that we use that go and seek medical advice and all the rest of it, but I think I need to be really clear on this one. If you've got somebody who's planning on getting pregnant, and the reason I say that is most people are about 6 weeks, 8 weeks pregnant before they even know. So if you know someone that's planning to get pregnant or is in the early stages of pregnancy, you must tell them that this product contains vitamin A so that they can then go to their healthcare provider and make an informed choice. You can't gloss over it as I've used it or so-and-so's used it and they have been fine. You have to say it contains vitamin A. And they might say, I've spoken to my GP, spoken to my obstetrician, and I'm happy to go ahead. That is fine, but then they've made an informed choice and you've done your job. So that's the one thing about pregnancy that I think is really important. And then the last bit, so the other one wants to mention really briefly again is fizz sticks. Now, if you're anything like me, I live off fizz sticks. But again, in pregnancy, we're starting to see that although we're advised to limit coffee, in actual fact, the least amount of caffeine you can have in pregnancy, the better. Now, to give you an idea, the amount of caffeine in a fizz stick is equivalent to about half a cup of coffee. But it's also got other stimulants such as ginseng. So ideally, I would be very cautious about recommending a fizz stick in pregnancy because basically if you stimulate mum, you're also stimulating baby. So if you can avoid it, can. If she's drinking 4 cups of coffee anyway, again, it's down to her personal choice. But that's quite important to let people know about that. Now, the final bit, I don't think I've missed anything else. The final bit is actually a note from Dr. Travis. Now, this is something that I suppose I've struggled a bit with, and it's the fact that we're not organic, because I find that I describe what we are and everyone says, oh, when you're organic, I'm like, no, we're not. So this is why. So obviously you're on 30 days and you recommend people, where possible, have organic fruits and vegetables. And then they ask you, and so is Arbonne organic? And you say, no. Have you ever thought about why? Why aren't we organic? So in order to get organic certification, every single ingredient needs an organic certificate. And of course, we've got 500 products. There are multiple ingredients within each product. It would be an absolute mammoth task, and it would be very costly as well. But that's not the reason. The other, touch on there, the other reason is that an organic certification cannot be applied to everything. So there are certain ingredients that can, but many that can't. So for example, a mineral, such as say calcium, whatever the source of that, cannot be registered as organic. nor can anything that's grown wild. And a good example of that is the eucalyptus plant in Australia is wild. And again, that cannot be registered as organic. So why aren't we organic? Well, that's because you can have an organic field and then you can have a non-organic field. And there's no stipulation as the distance needs to be between them. And of course, we've got no control over the rainfall or direction the wind is blowing. So you can have a field which is completely organic, but depending on the runoff from the non-organic field, or as the pesticides are sprayed on the non-organic field, which way the wind blows can blow over to the organic field. In actual fact, the field that is organic may not be organic. So because the farming process cannot guarantee there will not be any cross-contamination, Arbonne have gone a different way. And so what they do is they test every single raw material for pesticide residue. Now, to put that into perspective, and to I think to realise how enormous this task is, the example given is greens balance. Now, within greens balance, of course, we've got 37 different fruit and vegetables. Each different ingredient is tested for pesticide residue. It's then cold pressed, and then the final product is then tested again for its purity and for pesticide residue, which means every single product that we have is being tested twice to ensure its purity. And that guarantees that our products are cleaner than anything that is certified as organic. But we will never be certified organic for that reason. But I think that's reassuring for ourselves, and it is obviously reassuring for our clients. Why not? And I think I'll leave that there. And if you've got any questions, obviously I'll be happy to answer them.
Oh my God, Julie. Okay, so the chat is exploding. Wow, wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. Awesome, awesome. People absolutely love you, your knowledge. So I've got new consultants that in. She's going, this woman's a genius. It's like, honestly, she's like, this was the best thing. She stayed after today just to watch you. She said, I'm glad this was why I came, you know. So I'm just going to quickly run over a couple of things.
Okay.
Just want to say, okay, so a couple of questions in the chat. What age to give children Digestion Plus starting?
I'd give them as soon as they've eaten.
Okay, thank you. And then would you give a child a whole sachet from the start?
I tend to give them half.
Okay, up to what age then, roughly?
I still give Grace half a sachet. She's 10.
Yeah.
I would think within the next couple of years, I'll give her a whole sachet. I don't think there's a hard and fast. Giving them too much is not going to cause a problem. The body will just get rid of it. Okay. I think the issue is not giving them enough.
All right, yeah, perfect. Loved your Hippocrates.
Hippocrates.
That's it, thank you. Claire Gratian had a good question. How do you know if a client needs omega-3 for weight loss, for example? Is this just from their diet? No,
so you don't know. But unless they're getting a regular source of omega-3, then they should be having omega-3 as an add-on. Most people aren't getting enough.
Right, so you could just ask them that question. Do you have omega-3 included in your diet? Right.
Yeah, it's looking at oily fish. So the recommendation is at least 1, possibly 2 portions of oily fish per week. But that's not oily fish from Tesco that's been farmed. That is Atlantic salmon that has actually got adequate omega-3 in. And there aren't many people that are having that. Okay, thank you. Catherine Scully has also said, can we have a day training? So we'll have to look into that. You are a very wanted woman now. You're on the wanted list. Can I just say that? Also, Jade, basal rate, B-A-S-A-L. Was that how you spell it, Julie? Yeah, your basal metabolic rate. Basal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, basal. It's just like it's the minimum amount of calories that you need to survive. Okay, can we give the kids the capsules, Carol? If they will have them. So I've got 3 children. One of them has them. One spits them out and one puts them under the table. So yeah, Grace, which one is Grace? Grace spits. I knew it.
that Nikki Marchand blends hers up in the blender.
We've tried that, but they can tell the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Right.
must just be, they get it. Yeah, Nina just eats them. She'll have 2. It's great. And Sophia said, I've eaten it, mummy. And I find it on the floor when she walks away.
Love it. Ooh, la, la.
Yeah, they need them, but obviously trying to find quite genius ways of getting them into them.
Yeah, that could be a challenge. We could set that as a challenge. So innovative ways of being prize, something like that. We could.
Yeah.
Pregnancy. So Jade said, are they okay for Digestion Plus in pregnancy? Yes. Okay, and do you give the shakes to kids? The packaging says not suitable, says Kelly Atkinson.
Okay, so the packaging says it's not suitable because it's not being tested on children. And Arbonne is an ethical company. Mars bars haven't been tested on children, but they don't say not suitable for children. So my children have been brought up on them since the age of 2, and I wouldn't let them have anything else.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And Amy Davey asked as well, if you could recommend the top Arbonne products if someone's going through chemo, if they're not doing the 30 days, what would your top be recommended?
Oh gosh, that's really difficult. Really difficult because it would depend a lot on exactly what was happening. Let me come back to you on that one.
Okay, maybe she could private message you. So that was Amy Davey. You private message Julie. Yeah. Okay, super. And then, oh, come on, Carol, we've got to go to bed. I'm joking, we love you. This is such a VP. We're always the most cheekiest ones. That's how you go VP. Cheeky guys, don't give in. Kids, 2 capsules or 1 is what she said.
Yeah, 1. I think it'd be fine. Yeah.
It does say 2, doesn't it, on the actual...
Yeah, that's for an adult. And yeah, no, I think 1 should be fine.
Yeah, Carol's saying, no, keep her on. No, she has to go to bed. I know that Julie got a babysitter tonight, especially so she could come on the Zoom call. I have been nagging Julie for ages to get her on the 8 p.m. And then when she got on that, most people didn't hear that. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's loving your autoimmune diseases, like your explanation. You have been as incredible as I knew you would be, Julie. Thank you so much. You are a doctor, and I love that because, you know, when Kerry's going, she's a genius, I'm like, she's a doctor. She's like, well, she is so passionate, and we can take this out now as evidence of why we love Arbonne. You know, consult your doctor. Well, we've had Judy Fisher-Smith consult us, so we know what we're doing and talking about. Thank you so much. Everybody's saying thank you. So well done. Lots of love, Judy. Thank you, everybody on the call tonight, and have a great week. Take care, everyone. Bye, Judy.
Bye.